Greetings, dear ones. It is Monday, the 24th of October, and this is another episode of You Are More Than You Know. And similar to the talks I was doing on Fridays of updating what's going on currently in the world, energetically, spiritually, psycho-emotionally, etc. This these talks are going to focus more on your personal work, your personal aspects. And I'm sorry, Facebook is signaling me here that it wants me to do something. Um, and that includes individual readings if someone has requested one. And we do have someone attending this evening who was intending to hear a little bit more about her soul destiny with us with a destiny reading. And really, it I did cite this, or I did put this on this date because it is Diwali. And it that is it's probably the biggest Hindu festival of the year. And it is interesting because this is a festival, it's a New Year festival, but moreover, it is celebrating good over evil, light over dark, the life giving gods and goddesses triumphant over those that are attempting to destroy. And certainly we are in the midst of that right now, where we are experiencing both on planet and off planet influences attempting to destroy the progress, destroy the forward movement, destroy the evolutionary process of this species. And so let me share a little bit about Diwali. Diwali, depending on what part, India is a very large country. So depending on what area or region of India you live in, the perspective of who triumphed over whom, or what aspect of dark, evil, etc., was pushed back or sent to another realm. But in all instances, it is still the idea of there being a push from both sides or a battle of some sort, and again, the winning or the triumph or the overcoming of the dark by those forces of light. Whether it was in some instances Krishna, in some instances Vishnu. So do a little bit of investigating. I would encourage you to do so. But it is a celebration of 5 days. And the first day, which is very, very interesting, it is, as many different cultures celebrate or go into celebrations, it is about cleansing. It's about cleaning your home, buying new utensils to bring in the new and the positive and the abundant. The second day is very much about decorating the home, and that's when the lights are placed. And they were little clay containers of long, long ago. Of course, it was either some sort of animal fat or what have you to burn. And so there could be many of them. And still to this day, there's lots of color, of course, but the lights are principal in the decorations. And the third day is an honoring and recognition and communion with Lakshmi, which is one of the primary goddesses, again, in the Hindu pantheon. She represents many things. She represents learning. She represents music. She represents abundance above all else. And interestingly, I am in the process of framing a small Lakshmi poster for a dear friend whose business is being inaugurated this Saturday. As a matter of fact, it's a fantastic masquerade holistic fair, which I'll be a vendor and doing destiny readings, as a matter of fact. And I'll be posting after this to give you the address and more information on it. But Lakshmi is always with me and on my wall. And here's the one that is on my wall. Let me get the glare off of it. And there are many different images of Lakshmi. This is one of my favorites because, of course, it includes the lotus, it includes the elephant. Her son, as a matter of fact, is Ganesh, and he is the remover of all obstacles. So, working in conjunction with the remover of obstacles and Lakshmi, who brings in the abundance, whether it's of health, but primarily finances or food. Another one of her beautiful symbols is the peacock feather, which stays with Lakshmi. It's right over the poster, the framed poster on my wall. And the peacock feather is not only traditional to her in the Hindu spiritual pantheon, but in many different traditions, and it always symbolizes the ability to see or to have sight or to see beyond. And that's one of the things that I want to emphasize is that what appears to be chaos and crises and darkness coming in from all sides and in all different ways in our world right now, if you are able to see with a wider camera eye, if you're able to pull that camera back and look at this evolutionary process, it is exactly right. Everything is right on target for the highest potential of evolution. And so when we see in our lives different crises, different challenges, different discomforts, it really is right on target as indicators or catalysts or little pushes towards the underlying spiritual significance and soul purpose for that being in your life. And a lot of what my clients come to experience is a great appreciation and love and recognition and incorporation of that which has been painful or seemingly tragic or traumatic in their lives. And ultimately, as that piece is transmuted or potentially even metamorphosized, they really do come to see from that wider perspective or feel from that wider perspective, or they are sitting in a place from their wider self and with their wider self rather, where they really recognize and give great gratitude for exactly what happened and how it happened. And please don't misunderstand, that is not in any way dismissing or minimizing anything that occurs in one's life, but it does allow you to see why your soul would have designed such an experience and such a depth of experience, because most of my clients have actually had some rather severe, no, very severe, or very severe trauma in their lives, particularly as children. And we all do, but there are some who have chosen extremely intensified experiences because in that lies the energy for the transmutation process, because it can't be done through your head. And it is that emotional experience that sits in your physicality, in your energy field, in your emotional body, as well as, depending on how old you were when it occurred, also in your brain. And that is what we do in sessions, work with, at a level where the genes are actually changed. So lineage issues, cultural issues, species issues are transmuted. And that's why this is so important to understand that everything that is occurring right now is to benefit and to accelerate the process of evolution for this species. And when we're, kind of seeing things only in light and dark, and only the light is good, and only good is good, and, not wanting to even talk about the dark or talk about the shadow pieces or talk about what awakens in us when we experience some of those things in our own lives or on a national or global scale. Because it is in the personal exactly the same pattern, exactly the same dynamic. And when we're able to source that within us and transmute it, it is therefore one less thread holding that pattern in place for the entire species. So that's why I'm so passionate in working with people who truly want to access their soul destiny and be living from that place, and are then able to move in their day to day, whether it's in their the circle of their lives, friends, family, etc., or whether they're taking their place energetically and in the world by presencing themselves so fully that it dissipates, or not dissipates, but actually begins to dissolve the foundations of the old way or old earth or old structure or Piscean age that saw a more pyramidal structure with very few at the top holding the power and the resources of the world. And that's the fight that's going on right now, of course. And right now, the currency that is being fought over is oil and gas, as well as other minerals and things that we are ripping apart the earth to obtain and own, versus utilizing more renewable sources that does not destroy the earth and ourselves in the process, and that can't actually be owned. We can own the technology of it, we can own the processing or the transportation of that, but to not be able to own the resource itself completely shifts the economy, the geopolitical, the social, the cultural constructs of our world. So I'm really feeling into, and I love the holiday of Diwali and all that it represents. And I encourage you, as I said, not only to do research, but to set up some sort of small area and altar and do light your lights. Candle, whether it's a real candle or one of the electronic ones, but have a candle going. using safety precautions, of course, but having that light move with you, having that constant awareness of what light is and what it can come. It's the illumination, of course. It's the ability to see and move and do things, create things. Without it, we could not. Except, of course, in the daytime, and even then, we need more light inside our dwellings and structures and buildings, and always have necessitated or needed that. So I'm really inviting you to not only sit and celebrate the light, but also to allow it to illuminate or show some of the places in shadow in your own life, in your own being, and how perhaps those around you, or again, something on the national or global stage, is tweaking you, poking you, triggering you. And that's the first road sign that it is the path that's being called to go down right now. So I think it's also really fascinating that today, Diwali, the first prime minister of color was brought into office in England. And again, very, very interestingly, Queen Elizabeth, with all that she was and all that she held and all that she represented, was still very much a product of the old way and colonialism. And for many, of course, many, many years, the empire included India. And now there is a prime minister whose family, whose descendancy is from India. And whatever comes of it, that old bringing forth the new, is very, very timely on this day. So celebrating the light, celebrating the new, celebrating a potential different way of being for the British Commonwealth now. So let yourself play a little bit with shadow and light and what that means for you, what it means to you, how it shows up in your life, in your day to day, and what is it that you would like to see come forth from the shadows and be transmuted. And give that to the candle, really offer that up to the light. If you are on a spiritual path and or some sort of self-discovery path in any way, shape, or form, then you are working on, at least this lifetime, the side of life and creation and progress and expansion of the species, expansion of yourself. And if that's the case, then you are wanting and needing to reveal or have revealed those shadow pieces. And again, not because they're bad, not because there's something wrong with them. They're exactly what you chose to be able to accomplish the soul project that you laid out for yourself. And so I would say that was one of the key factors in all that I teach, all that I share, all that I facilitate with clients, with students, what have you, is that there is nothing wrong with what's going on in the world. There is nothing wrong with what's going on in your life. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't uncomfortable, painful even, or extremely detrimental, but it does mean that it is purposeful. It is soul purposeful. And as I said, that's one of the key factors that um, the principles that underlie what I do and the process that I've created. Another main factor that I think is significant is that when you are able to know thyself, or let me put it this way, the more you are able to know thyself, the more you are able to feel into the oneness of everything. You're able to feel into the land, not just see it, not just know about it, but literally feel into it, or even potentially shapeshift to become the land and really know what that experience is like. So, the second key factor is that knowing, loving, having oneself immediately you become part of that oneness, not just in your mind, but in your day to day, because everything around you is reaching out to help you, to guide you, to encourage you, to celebrate you, to laugh with you, to show you the way. And that can be anything from an animal that crosses your path, whether in the physical or perhaps on, in an electronic way through TV, computer, what have you, to something that, is written on the truck that goes by. And that was the question, that you had this morning in your morning still time or quiet time, and a truck is going by with a big answer for you or a clue to where you should head for the next step. And again, that's another part that really is just, I feel such joy in seeing clients live this way every day, where they're getting, opportunities, and the people that cross their path allow them to bring out even more of who they are, and what they're doing in their, let's call it, work, is a full expression of who they are. And so automatically the abundance comes because it's their soul expressing. So that is also very key. And that oneness, cooperating, collaborating, communicating with all the different parts of you allows you to connect, communicate, collaborate, cooperate, and commune with all that is around you. And that brings up the other, to me, significance of this day. This is United Nations Day. And while the institution itself may have many snags still, let's put it that way, or it's still functioning on the old structure in many ways, the idea, the principle, the wish for our world to come together under law and make decisions for the benefit not solely of their own country, but for the benefit of all, or the earth. So that certainly is, and always has been since I was very, very young, one of my deepest wishes. And I've had the great opportunity to go to the United Nations and experience an extremely uh, spiritual talk and lecture by a channeled being. Yes, in the United Nations, and he was invited there. A gentleman who channels a group of very high level entities, council of beings, very wise beings, and he was invited there many, many years to speak and present what he was, what was being channeled through him as far as information and advice for the world. So that was a very interesting experience, I must admit. And I'm also keeping my eye peeled for a beautiful being who was going to be in attendance and have her um, destiny reading, but I don't see her as yet. So, Kate, if you do show up, please put something in the comments so I know you're here and I can attend to your request. So, I think another of the factors that are very, very key in bringing you an awareness of the fact that you are so much more than you know is that everything, we know this, it's been said so many times, everything is within you. But the accessing of it is a wholly different thing. And most of my clients are working on a soul mastery course. And what that means is that they are not only working with what's going on and what they've experienced in this life, but they are bringing forward many other lives or existences where they have been exploring a particular piece, and now it can come to culmination, or as I like to say it, they're writing their thesis, their soul thesis on this subject that they've been exploring for many, many lifetimes. And for those people who are on a soul mastery, it's coming to a very difficult moment because as more evolutionary energetics come to the planet, it is kind of fomenting or bringing fire to that longing and desire to complete this soul project or bring it to the foreground. And at the same time, those shadow pieces that I mentioned are purposefully stopping that from occurring because those masters have a fail-safe switch. And until those pieces are purified, their soul is keeping them from stepping into their full power to prevent any harm being done. Because I know you've seen plenty of movies where someone gets newfound powers or has access to some sort of weapon and is utilizing it without really having the capacity to do so, and the damage that can come from that. So it is a crucial time. It is a very opportune time for humans, for those who are on this soul mastery path. And I am constantly humbled and in awe of what souls have chosen as their projects and the types of existences that they have aligned with this life so that once purified, that particular wound can then allow for the opening of that portal, that vortice within you, so that you can channel in the abilities, knowledge, gifts, energetics in this process of evolution for our planet. So it's a very big, I think that's why, I title these talks and have taught these as courses for many years. You are more than you know. And, we all kind of suspect, or we go to a reader and they tell us we're Cleopatra or what have you. We've had a life of this, that, or the other thing. And that's wonderful. But until you actually know that inside and you are using that knowledge that you gleaned in this other existence, then it's really just fluff. And my clients end up actually utilizing, if they're connected to the magical realms, they are actually using magic in their life. If they're connected to future worlds, they are channeling in that future and bringing forward in the physical more business, new properties to purchase, just countless ways. So you are so much more than you know. And it's so easy to get lost or caught up in the third dimensional aspects and just trying to get through a day. Trust me, I do recognize that and what my own challenges of that, right? Doesn't seem like there's enough hours, etc., for all that needs to be done and all that you want to do. But it's very easy to have to cut off all of who you really are, this moreness, and just focus on today and what you have to do today. And you are truly so much more than you know. And when you have the more of you, then going through the day today is more like a game. It is more fun. It is more powerful. It is, yes, in some ways more challenging because you have a wider being. Um, but then again, it is allowing you to affect larger change. And that isn't by going head to head with it. If you see, something terrible in the world and you want to pray for or bring in the opposite, that's not always the ideal. But what you can do is bring in your dream, your wish of how you want that aspect of our world to be, our culture, or your family, or the land, or the earth. And that's extremely powerful. And that fourth day of Diwali is a celebration of a new year, and with much, you know, gifts and visits to people and connections and just joyous celebration. And so I would invite you to bring that forward when you see or hear of something that is upsetting or painful, and really just sit in what it would feel like if that were a different way, if it were how you would envision it to be, how you would love to feel it being. And that's more powerful than anything. And the more that you have of you, the more powerfully you are setting or imprinting that dream, that desire, that wish into the new patterning. So I have multiple opportunities for individual work. I do sessions one-on-one with clients, and there is an upcoming group in November. I think we've moved the date up a little bit to, I believe it's the 11th of November. And this is powerful because you're going to be working together as a group energetically, not necessarily back and forth, but there may be some of that certainly in the retreat days and or the mini session focus sessions that are going to be twice a month, as well as the retreats. So you have the full impact of everyone's energy and helpers and knowledge and experience, it's all in the mix of that container. So it can be a very accelerated transformation process for you. It's a 5-month program, and there are 3 opportunities throughout the month to really accelerate your move yourself forward into that transformed self. And heads up, on the 1st, it was going to be the start of the group, but it's very, very important to me. That's the high holy day, if you will, of the year, is All Souls, All Saints, and right around what's traditionally known as Halloween, because the veil is so thin, because it is incorporating our ancestors, loved ones that have passed. And this year, I've been doing this for 18 years or so around this holiday, either outside, used to do it at Cooper River Park, then in my backyard. This year it is going to be virtual again. But please come and celebrate. It's going to be a free event, and there's potential for you to change, actually transform lineage issues, and moreover those of your culture, because we're going to be working with a lot of the ancient cultures that have been revealing themselves over the past year or two like never before. Cultures of 3,500 years ago, cultures of 50,000 years ago, different cultures are being revealed thanks to, unfortunately, the drought in many countries. And the pandemic allowed for movement and archaeological exchange of information and anthropological. So it's very, very exciting, and we have so much help coming forward. So that's going to be the focus of November 1st, so please join me. Right now, what I'd like to do is invite you to please just, get comfortable in your chair. Find your sits bones. We have a lot of energetics here this evening that have come forward to help us. Not only those that I've mentioned as far as the Hindu tradition, but we have that idea of United Nations. And of course, those of you who have worked with me know that I'm a very big Star Trek fan of the original and the Next Generation, and very, very, the United Federation of Planets. So the United Nations is the precursor to the United Federation of Planets in my world. So I do foresee that. I don't think we're going to be very long before we are going to be encountering other species, other planets, other beings, and I am always holding the dream that this world will be working as one, so that we can meet the others as a united world. So we have that as an energetic. We have Diwali, the many, many different Hindu gods and goddesses that are part of this celebration of light and the triumph of good over evil, or in my wording, the triumph of life over destruction, of creation over destruction, of life over diminishment of life or taking of life. So we have that in the container as well, in this cauldron, if you will. Tomorrow is going to be the last, I believe it is the last eclipse of 2022. And it is a partial eclipse, but it is going to be visible from Iceland to India, which is again very interesting, and all of Europe. It's going to touch on all of Europe. And certainly we know at this moment Europe has many different challenges and is also struggling with that staying in the old way of authoritarianism, autocracies, tyrants, um, control and oppression over the people, versus democracy, versus a way of moving forward and everyone participating. So, again, with an eclipse, we have the darkness covering the light, with shadow. So, again, huge metaphors and energetics, true energetics from the cosmos assisting us in this process. Um, Another large factor is the different forms of magic that have been appearing. And magic, if you've heard me speak of magic before, it is beyond miracles in that it is something that we, beyond our imagination, and happens immediately. So, or instantly. So that which we thought would take 10 years or more can actually happen in an instant. So we have a lot of earth magic coming in, and we see that in the recovery of animals that have been extinct. Again, this week, I just heard of 2 more animals that were extinct for thousands of years. I believe they showed up in Spain, but this has been happening over and over again. A plant that in Italy that was not seen for thousands and thousands of years, and it was a plant that was used in the healing process, so it was written about and has now been seen, identified, and it was growing wild again. So nature can recover very, very quickly, much quicker than we believe, if we give it the opportunity. And I invite you, anything that you've been noticing, anything that has been coming up as far as animals or animal teachers or aspects of nature that has been coming forward for you, that's all in the mix as well. And if you can just find your seat, in other words, really feeling your rear end on the chair, the couch, the floor, whatever you happen to be sitting on. And unlike many processes of meditation, etc., I am going to invite you to not use your sight, your third eye, but instead to ask it to have a back seat and not be the driver, and instead allow yourself to feel your own internal process. And that's what I identify as the Innerverse versus the universe, the outer universe. That's everything around you. But your Innerverse, which is a key component, if not the key component, in your journey, in your process, in your progress as a soul, because all of the answers are there. I know many teachings and poetry, etc. It's all in you, it's all inside. But the trick, if you will, is in accessing that. And that's why I've developed the unique process that I have over 40 some years, more than that, to guide clients into that conversation with their Innerverse, their body, their energy field, their wider self, their guides and teachers and masters. And that language is not always easy. And so oftentimes the mind comes up with commentary or suggestions, when in fact that isn't the most ideal for you. It is your innate, your direct line of communication to your soul that is the true guide, the true source and resource of what is ideal for you. So I help people really get in touch with their inner world, their innerverse, and have that wide resource that is unique to you alone. So as I'm speaking that, I don't know, those of you who are sensitives may be actually feeling a transmission beginning through me to you in this container. And some people start to feel some inner warmth, or feel tingling, or feel just movement inside. There is no right, there is no wrong, there is nothing that you need do at all. As a matter of fact, doing stops the potential for you to drop very, very, very deeply internally and have an experience that is possibly different than you've ever had before. So, as always, there is the Supreme Council of Universal Spiritual Law is overseeing this process. And there's a pop-up from Facebook that keeps on interfering with my view, but I did want to acknowledge and honor some of the plant beings who have chosen to come and join us this evening. And those plant beings showing up through Young Living essential oils, which I've been using for close to more than 22 years. And they are incredible beings of wisdom and knowledge and companionship that continue to teach me on a daily basis. And one of them that is showing up tonight is lemongrass. Lemongrass brings the characteristic or the feeling of lightness of being. So that is very much here this evening. Also, we do have Northern Lights Black Spruce, whose characteristic is always about that bridging between the divine and the human, bridging between heaven, if you will, and earth. And so it's very much here this evening with us. And the third oil, of course there's many more, but these are the ones that wanted to be on screen. And this is White Light. And this is a blend that carries a purity and clarity of the more creative, life-giving, forward movement of an individual. And of course we have Lakshmi with us, and Vishnu, and many other of, again, depending on what area of India one sources from, determines which god or which acknowledgement of that struggle and the parties therein. And with Lakshmi, of course, we have her son, Ganesh, the elephant god, the remover of obstacles. And the beautiful swan that she is known for, as well as the peacock. And so just really allowing yourself to sit in all of these energetics and all that I've shared with you about this very profound soul destiny path that you are on if you're here at this time on the earth. And simply allowing yourself to sink ever more deeply into you and into this container. For in this mix, there is, as always, the elements of land, air, fire, and water, bringing into right relationship your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies in this process. And again, it is most vital to simply feel and sensate and allow. And I am seeing, finally, Kate is appearing. And Kate, since we're already moving into the alchemical deep dive, I'm going to invite you to contact me individually, and I will do the reading for you there. For now, I'm inviting everyone to simply sit, simply feel into your internal experience, sensating any physical body, internal organs, tissues, glands. Not to focus, not to do anything with them, no work, no effort whatsoever. But instead, to just soften and allow the energetics, allow what is here, allow what your system has called forth for you at this time. Allow your Innerverse to reach you. And I often liken this to, if you see a wild deer, if you do anything, it'll run off. But instead, if you just stay still and quiet and allow it to approach you, and so There isn't even any need to follow my words. I'm speaking and continuing to do so because of the transmission of energetics that comes through the voice, and to allow those who may have their eyes closed to know that the recording is still going on. But you're only hesitate to use the word task, but the only thing you need do in this moment is not do. If you are here, if you are listening to this, if you are desiring a deeper connection, communication, collaboration, cooperation, and communion with the many parts of you here in this dimension, and potentially those in other dimensions or worlds or realms, then you've already done the asking. Now it is simply allowing yourself to sink down in to all that is here, to all that you are. Again, noticing when your brain kicks in, or your vision kicks in, or your third eye kicks in, and just gently ask them to sit in the back seat, because they are most frequently driving. But in this instance, we are going to allow your internal compass, your innate which is a direct line of communication with your wider self, or in other words, your soul self. And your energy field, which knows exactly how to do this, how to bring you down and in you. Despite the fact that on a daily basis your energy field is pushed mainly to the top of your body, here and now, you're allowing that energy field to little by little sink down ever more, incorporating and again, no work, no effort, no push to that. Your energy field has knowledge from far beyond this physical experience to assist you in coming ever more deeply down and in you. Just as you allow the chair or the couch or the floor to hold you up, so that you need not do so. Allow yourself to sink into that chair, into that couch, onto the floor. You might feel yourself getting a little heavier, a little thicker, a little more substantial. You may feel or notice in your awareness different parts of your body. Little by little, as we're moving downward and inward, those body parts can also soften and cease efforting. Allow the ever more dropping inward, downward, some of you may even feel as if you're falling asleep. That's perfectly fine. Oftentimes, this process brings you into an altered state of a more energetic, a less physical always and ever just sensating, not tracking, not analyzing, not figuring, no doing whatsoever. Simply allow the process, your energy field, your wider self know exactly how to bring you more into you. To bring you more different types of movement inside, maybe different parts of your body just coming to an awareness. Some may not be physically feeling as much as energetically. This is simply an invitation for you to sensate, experience your Innerverse. No goals, no focus, no intention. Much like leaning back in a beautiful canoe or rowboat and allowing someone else to row. In this case, it is your own wider self and energy field that is steering and guiding and propelling. Steering, guiding, and propelling you to a more internal, inner experience of you. Again, nothing you need do, nothing you need see, nothing you need come up with, nothing, no work whatsoever. And the more you can allow your third eye and your internal visioning and your brain to let go of the steering wheel, the more easily you are able to drop down and in, down and inside you. And the more you're able to allow yourself to drop down and inside you, more of you will be in connection with. communication with. Be it in a more subtle and symbolic communication. Simply feel, simply sensate. Simply experience. Allow your own soul self, your own energy field, your own internal compass to lead you, to guide you. Downward and inward. Some of you may be sensating physically inside, some energetically, some may be asleep. Some of you may feel my voice far, far, far away. Some of you may feel just right on the edge between sleep and wake. Which in fact, that edge is the between your physical and non-physical being. And another minute here where you are experiencing more of you, where all these beautiful energetics and helpers and offerings as you allow and follow your energy field and your wider self's steering, helping you to move ever so gently at what they know to be your own pace, your own rhythm, your own speed. In other words, do not push yourself back, do not force yourself, do not lead, but instead know and trust your own soul self, your own energy field, to know exactly what to do and how to do. This process of moving from what is perhaps a less physical experience back to a more third-dimensional physical experience. And note or sensate that in between where you are both human and soul self, where you do feel the physicality of this dimension and the less physical of other time spaces. We went a fair distance, so please allow the process of re-entry to take place in your own unique way. You are also very welcome to stay in this delicious energetic, this state of being, in this container of beautiful energetics, powerful energetics, challenges, helpers, etc. And just know that whenever you do decide to come back to a more consensus reality, you will be fully integrated and your experience deeply consolidated in and through your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic bodies. And I invite you, whenever you do decide to come back to this third dimensional physical experience, to just note what was, not only what your experience was. I would love to hear, by the way, if you want to send me a message or comment after the video, I'd love to hear. But moreover, I'd invite you to note when you were in that state, when you were in that deeper internal experience of you, to not only remember or note what was there, but what was not there. For most people, when they get into a deeper state, a deeper altered state, there is a stillness, a peace, fear, anger don't exist there. Not that I'm diminishing them, they have their place, but it is wonderful to keep visiting a state of being where those are not prominent and running your life. So I encourage you to revisit this. You can listen to the last 20 minutes or 30 minutes of this as many times as you choose. I will post it here on Facebook. It will also be on my YouTube channel, A Healer's Universe. That's AHEALERS Universe. And there you'll find probably close to 100 videos. That the last half is always a drop in, and you are welcome to listen to any of those and re-experience another combination of energetics to help you come to your Innerverse. And again, if you'd like to explore on a one-on-one basis, I have a couple slots left for one-on-one sessions in the Emerald program. I have a couple slots left for the Diamond program, which is one session a month in the group, and then the group is going to be starting in a few weeks. It's very powerful and, again, another accelerated transformation opportunity. So please contact me about any of those. I'd love to have a chat and see which one is right for you. In the meantime, many, many blessings on this day of light and throughout the next days of Diwali and the next through this eclipse time. Please take advantage. It's always a wonderful time for reset, do of many areas of your life, whatever you choose. And I hopefully will also see you on the 1st of November for the All Saints, All Souls, All Hallows celebration. And that's going to be at 7 o'clock in the evening also. So until then, please know that it is with the deepest of honor, gratitude, and love for your presence here on the planet. Good night.